So, unfortunately, I think I've already peaked in this video series. And what I mean by that is I think you'll be hard pressed to find a modern race car driver who comes from more humble beginnings than the Iceman. Now, I do not speak Finnish, so be prepared for bad pronunciations. The Iceman, otherwise known as Kimi Räikkönen, was born in the suburb of Karusaro in the Finnish city of Espoo, just outside the capital of Helsinki. Kimi was born on October 17, 1979. The Räikkönen family originates from the Karelia region, which is currently split between Finland and Russia. Therefore, at one point in time, this area was under the control of the USSR. While it is no secret that Kimi has been one of the elder statesmen in F1 in recent years, to put it into perspective, Kimi was born more than a decade before the official fall of the Soviet Union. However, this is somewhat irrelevant, as the Räikkönen family lived in the city of Espoo in a small house built by Kimi's great-grandfather. This small green home would serve as the house for this family of four and the childhood home of one of the future's highest-paid athletes. However, it would not serve them all the time, as it did not even have an indoor bathroom, which will be a relevant talking point later on. Even if you are a massive Kimi Räikkönen fan and have never missed a single Grand Prix, it is quite possible that you have never seen his parents at the track. Stories say his parents have only ever attended a few Grand Prix. However, this isn't for a lack of family companionship. If anything, I would say the Räikkönen family seems to have companionship in excess. In my reading and research of the Räikkönen family, I sense this tone of closeness and emotion that seems familiar to me. In my previous two videos, I've explained the backgrounds and roles of the parents of the drivers separately. However, I feel in this case the Räikkönen family would much rather be discussed collectively as a whole. Kimi's family was composed of father Matti Räikkönen, mother Paula Räikkönen, and nearly 2-year older brother Rami Räikkönen. The Räikkönen family lived a very modest life filled with honest hard work, but could still leave them classified as poorer than some other families. Father Matti was experienced in mechanics and also worked in the construction of roads. Later on, as the children's demands of racing became more fervent, Matti would take up extra work as a taxi driver and as a nightclub bouncer. Mother Paula worked as an office clerk as well as a dedicated mother to the two young boys. However, the whole family could be described as dedicated to each other. Unfortunately, even with their hard work, money could always still be denoted as elusive. One advantage of living in a small house in the woods of Finland was that the young boys Kimi and Rami had plenty of outdoor space to run and play. The area around the home would become the first location in which Kimi would race at with his brother Rami. Matti Räikkönen recalls the first simple venture into racing was on small Italian motorbikes. At this time, it was simply done as a gesture to give the boys a healthy hobby to enjoy. In a 2001 interview with the pair of parents, Father Räikkönen goes on to explain how while both boys were young when they began riding these motorbikes, they were not the same. Paula would describe Rami Räikkönen as a careful and thoughtful diplomat, while Kimi was less cautious. Even with potential differences in personalities, the boys were described as always together, whether as friends, family, or competitors in their garden. Unfortunately, as the boys grew, they would need new bikes to fit their size. However, for the Räikkönen family, the cost of 2 new bikes would be too great. In the place of bikes, Rami and Kimi would instead receive a Lada 1200 and Lada 1600, 2 small Soviet-era cars that would become the new toys for the children. As one could imagine, 2 children obsessed with driving would end up destroying the yard around the family's small home. So the parents decided these red and green Soviet-era cars must go, and instead, upon selling the Ladas, were able to afford a single go-kart. This change of wheels, of course, did not come without complications. While the go-kart would get the boys away from the house and tearing up the yard, it would lead them to the nearby go-kart track of Bimbol. While this small track gave the boys an opportunity to drive and race, due to the smaller size of Kimi, Matti would have to adjust the pedals anytime Rami's turn was over. Since the boys were always having to wait for the other to complete their turn with a go-kart, and the extra work required to constantly adjust the seat and pedals, the family decided they had to buy a second go-kart. The family had had a plan to upgrade the small home to include an indoor bathroom. However, in order to afford a second go-kart, the family decided it would be best to waylay the bathroom and purchase the go-kart so the boys could continue to race. Following the boys into karting meant more financial sacrifices for the family. At ages 8 and 10, the 2 boys began to move on to national kart races. By this point in time, Matti was working multiple jobs to support his 2 sons. The Räikkönen parents describe how, in addition to financial struggles, the time required for travel was also quite demanding. In their 2001 interview, they also expressed their thanks to their then employers, allowing the parents to be flexible with their work schedule, which would allow them to take the time to travel across countries with the boys. Matti recalls how one summer could consist of 17 different races between the two boys and would require the majority of the week for travel. The parents remember the struggles of this phase in their lives. They remembered the worry of financial concerns, but they also claimed to never question or regret their decisions. Judging by the deep connection shared between family members and the successes of their children today, it is evident that these were the correct decisions. While Rami excelled at time trials and searching for self-improvement, he continued on from karting into rally racing and worked closely with his father Matti. Matti even had a period of racing legend cars himself. Kimi, on the other hand, excelled at the aggression of racecraft and, of course, continued on into Formula One. The Räikkönens like to try to make it clear that they never forced anything like lost dreams onto their children. If anything, it was almost the opposite. While they always enjoyed to see their children succeed, they never had a dream of Rami or Kimi reaching the international heights of F1. That was a dream unique to the more ambitious Kimi. Financial struggles aside, extra work being ignored, and hours spent on the road made minuscule, Matti and Paula never wanted their life to change. Which leads us back to the point of only seeing Kimi's parents at a few races. Knowing their strengths and weaknesses, they fully trusted their sons to follow their dreams how they saw fit for each of them. It seems as if the life that Kimi went into was much bigger than either of them had ever expected or really knew how to cope with. Paula even states that she could not usually watch Grand Prix because they are too exciting. They were confident in their children, but they also made sure wherever they went, they always knew they could come back home again. If you follow the narrative of Kimi's nickname, the Iceman, it may come to you as a surprise that his parents considered him the more rambunctious and outgoing of their two children. But really they just considered him normal, went to school, had a girlfriend, and enjoyed hanging out with his friends at the sauna or disco. He has, however, been a man of only few words. At age 3, Kimi's parents took him to a doctor to survey his childhood development, because at that point in time, Kimi had still not begun to talk yet. It was determined that his intellect was actually above that of the average 3-year-old, however, he simply did not express a wish to begin talking yet. His speech would later be influenced by a bike crash at age 5. While driving his Italiette bike around his home, young Kimi would have a crash in which his throat would hit against the handlebars of the bike, causing irreparable damage to his vocal cords. This accident leads to the gravelly tone in his voice today when he speaks. Räikkönen has also revealed in his book that he also deals with dyslexia, in which he inherited from his mother. Even with these challenges, Kimi never found grade school complicated. He was not troubled by studies and particularly enjoyed riddles and puzzles. His mother recounts that one of the few times in which she saw Kimi visually upset was at age 6 during a regular medical checkup. In the children's waiting room, young Kimi had found a puzzle suited for his age that he found much too easy. He was demanding a harder puzzle for much older children from the nurse. Upon receiving this puzzle, he would also solve it easily. Away from school, Kimi most enjoyed driving and competing against his older brother Rami. Matti Räikkönen has previously commented on how neither brother liked to take driving advice from the other. They both thought the other one had no hands. Off the track, Kimi enjoyed winter sports, often ruining his school book bag as using it as a sled, and he also played a defensive position for his local ice hockey team even though he was smaller than most of the other players. This participation in ice hockey would not continue for too long, however, as Kimi would quit the team because he hated having to wake up early for practices. Even through competition and a strong desire to win, Father Räikkönen taught the boys to not take themselves too seriously and be able to joke and have fun off the track. As such, Kimi became close lifelong friends with one of his first on-track rivals, Tony Vilander. After bikes at age 5 and a brief stint in Ladas, Kimi would experience his first time in a go-kart at age 8. Racing locally, Kimi would experience a few race wins over the next few years, but would often feel accomplished by something as simple as a 5th-place finish. The quality of the equipment in which the Räikkönens were using could be described as less sophisticated than his fellow competitors. While Matti Räikkönen tried to provide his sons with the best equipment and mechanical knowledge he had, sometimes the difference in budget was too insurmountable. However, he believed this experience and lesser equipment was also good for the development of certain skills. Moving on to the years 1991 and 92, Kimi would participate in some national karting races in the mini and racket junior classes. He would finish second in the general class of the mini racket goblet. 1993 would see him finishing 9th overall in the Finnish Cup within the racket class, and 94 would see him finishing 2nd overall to rival and friend Tony Vilander. During this time period, Räikkönen, Vilander, and Oskari Räikkönen would be the national karting team. 1995 would see Kimi making a step up to Formula A karting, and in his first race he would also take his first win. The year as a whole would see him finishing 3rd overall in the Nordic Championship. At the age of 15, Kimi would experience his first race abroad at Monaco. During this race, it's reported that the steering wheel broke off and Kimi continued to race around, trying to communicate to his engineer about the wheel's situation by waving it at him as Kimi would pass the pits on the front straight. The next race at Monaco would also not be simple. An early corner incident would see Kimi's kart being launched over the barriers. He would drive along outside the track before eventually lifting his kart back over the wall and rejoining the race. He would catch up to the pack and finish in 3rd place. 1996 would see Kimi participating in races in the European Karting World Championship and Nordic Championship. Also, while having no wins, Kimi would finish 4th overall in the Formula A class Finnish Championship. Turning 16 would see Kimi dropping out of academic school and joining a school for mechanics. After a period of struggling financially to stay active in karting, Kimi believed this may be the only way for him to stay connected to motorsports going ahead into his future. His hands-on experience working with his kart with his father and brother, plus his natural-born intelligence, led him to succeeding in this technical field. Kimi's family, however, has reflected on this phase, saying that they could not have seen Kimi being satisfied with being only a mechanic. And fortunately for Kimi, 1997 would provide a racing lifeline. 1997 would see Kimi winning the Intercontinental A Finnish Championship and finishing 4th in the ICA Nordic Championship. But potentially the most important for his career was that he was invited to drive for the Petter Debrugen racing team. The PDB racing team was an operation that was new to fielding their own go-karts, however, were led by an experienced pair. Petter Debrugen had been racing go-karts since age 11 and had managed several successful drivers. Meanwhile, Charlotte Hellberg was one of the most successful female karting racers and would be Kimi's teammate in his first year with the team. This opportunity would provide Kimi with confidence in his equipment and a salary. As a result of his new team, Kimi would live in the Netherlands in the 1998 year. During this time, he would win the Nordic and Finnish ICA championships, the Finnish Formula A championship, be winner of the Formula ICA European Karting Grand Prix, finish 2nd in the Super A category, and 3rd in the Monaco Super A Cup. 1999 would see Kimi finishing 2nd overall in the Finnish Formula A Karting Championship. This year would also see Räikkönen make the jump from karting into Formula Car racing. Driving for the team Continental Racing Van Diemen, Kimi would finish 5th overall in the European Formula Ford Championship. He would also make his Formula Renault debut with Haywood Racing, competing in 4 races and achieving 1 podium in those few starts. Later that year, he would sign a contract with Manor Motorsports to drive in the 1999 Formula Renault UK Winter Championship. He would compete in 4 races, have 4 pole positions, 4 wins, and win the championship. The transition from 1999 to 2000 was complicated. Although Kimi had signed a contract to drive for Manor Motorsports, he also had a responsibility to complete his Finnish military duties. He had delayed his military participation by 1 year so he could serve alongside longtime friend Tony Vilander. Kimi's time in the military is full of antics, staying out late and drinking, trying to sneak back in, and being caught. Through one of these stories, Kimi set the unofficial record of having 20 days without being allowed to leave the military compound. Being concerned that punishment may affect his racing schedule, after another night of late drinking, he would sneak out early in the morning and flee the base to be able to make it to a race. After working out a deal with the military, Kimi was allowed to continue racing and serve the rest of his military training as best he could. In the 2000 Formula Renault Championship, Kimi would end up only participating in 10 of the year's 12 races. He would still, however, win the championship 56 points over future 24 Hours of Daytona winner Ryan Dial. Kimi would accomplish this with 7 victories, 7 fastest laps, 6 pole positions, and 10 podiums. He would also participate in 2 races in the Formula Renault 2000 Euro Cup, with 2 wins and 2 pole positions, finishing 7th overall in the standings. As a result of his overwhelming successes in the Formula Renault series, in September of 2000, Räikkönen would take part in an F1 test for the Sauber team. After being convinced by Kimi's managers, Peter Sauber agreed to having Kimi take part in the test at the Mugello circuit. Ferrari and McLaren were also at this test, so in order to hide Kimi's identity, they gave him a code name after the ice cream sponsor that was helping to finance this test session. On the first day of the test session, Sauber driver Pedro Diniz completed 78 laps, making a base setup to help Kimi out in the car. On the first day, Kimi completed 29 laps and was 2.4 seconds off Pedro's time. However, on the second day, after only 6 laps, Kimi would better Pedro's time by half a second. Team members remark at his intelligent feel for the car's mechanical needs and ability to adjust to different fuel levels after having only been a kart racer only a year earlier. Another man impressed was Michael Schumacher, who after the first day of testing would knock on the motorhome door of Sauber race engineer Jackie Eckliert to inquire about whom was driving the Sauber. After finding out the man had only been driving karts 12 months earlier, Michael complimented Kimi, saying he was going to be very fast. Kimi would complete further tests at Jerez and Barcelona before being signed to drive for Red Bull Sauber Petronas for the 2001 F1 season. However, after Kimi's identity was revealed, many people were upset and uncertain at the qualifications of someone who had only done 23 car races previously. Then FIA President Max Mosley even spoke out against Kimi's eligibility for a super license due to his perceived inexperience. Under the agreement of a performance clause, Räikkönen would be granted the license, and in his first race, he would score a championship point at the 2001 Australian Grand Prix. Normally I would end my video here as Kimi has made it to Formula 1. However, I feel it would be amiss of me to not at least briefly mention his career as a whole. As of the end of the 2021 season, Kimi announced his official retirement from Formula 1 competition. Throughout Kimi's career, he would drive for Red Bull Sauber Petronas, McLaren Mercedes, and Scuderia Ferrari, where he would win the World Championship at the end of the 2007 season. After the 2009 season, Kimi would take a break from F1, experimenting in the fields of the World Rally Championship in years 2009, 10, and 11. Also, during the year 2011, Kimi would step into the world of NASCAR, completing a race at the Charlotte Motor Speedway for a new Camping World Truck Series team, Kyle Busch Motorsports, finishing 15th on debut. A week later, Kimi would race here again, finishing 27th in a NASCAR Nationwide Series, driving for the Nimco Motorsports team ran by Joe Nemechek, partnered with Kyle Busch Motorsports. The 2012 season would see Kimi finishing 3rd in the F1 Championship on his return with Lotus F1. 2014 would see Kimi return to Ferrari, and 2019 would see the beginning of the end of Kimi's F1 career by making a return to Alfa Romeo Sauber. In total, Kimi's time in F1 would see 1 World Championship, 21 race wins, 103 podiums, 18 pole positions, 46 fastest laps, and countless other records to his name. Even while he has announced his retirement for F1, there are few who would doubt his current speed and competitiveness. With very recent rumors discussing potential Kimi exploits outside of the realm of F1, maybe he will soon return to make another appearance in a new series just to test it out for fun, because after all, it is just more like a hobby for him. Now once again, thanks for watching this video, and a big thanks to everyone who's seen and commented on my first 2 videos. It's already way more than I honestly ever expected, so I appreciate that a lot. And I continue to try to hope to improve going forwards. And speaking of going forwards, we're actually going to go back first. Back 2 weeks to the 2022 Rolex 24 Hours at Daytona. Now my vision is to hopefully sometime have polls so people can vote about the topic of my next video, or leave little hints and clues about who I've chosen to make my next video about in the community tab on YouTube. However, apparently you have to unlock that first. So for now, I'm going to give my hints and clues right here at the end of videos. Now obviously I don't want to make it too obvious about who the next video is going to be about, nor do I want to make it impossible to guess either. So, for the next video, of course, one hint, the Rolex 24, and another one, you can steal the look. Whatever that means. So again, thanks a lot for watching the video. Let me know what you think about it, and guess what you think the next video will be about. And I'll see you next time on Driver Profiles.